to another episode of Northern Heresy. And then this week, I'm going to be talking about Librarians. And I'm Rick, and I'm joined by...
Kyle.
Yeah.
As always, here to serve.
Yes, the rules person. Although today, I'm the rules person.
Yes,
Not
yes,
you.
because I don't really have a whole lot of experience with
No. It's
them at all.
psychics are very. Before we get into the whole psychic thing and librarians, let's have a little recap. What have you been up to with the world of Horus Heresy in your hobby this week?
Well, I did something really cheeky, and I went and bought myself a Charybdis Assault Claw.
Is that because I beat you?
Oh yes, that also happened. Yes.
Oh wow, the burn! You didn't even acknowledge it. Oh, savage.
There was a lot of bad rolls on my part, and some questionable tactical decisions at times.
Yeah, I think it was obviously a lot of what happened in that game. I was testing out for today's discussion on librarians, and certain things that I did, we will go into when we get to that, because it'll have a lot more relevance to later on when we just talk about the psychic powers. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed getting my my Legion out. I mean, okay, I played Matt for Zone Mortalis, but that wasn't really. Zone Mortalis is a very different type of game. And it was nice to actually get the Legion out. And it did hammer home a lot of things for me to think about in regards to the Salamanders. A lot.
Yes, I think I enjoy every game that I play, but I especially whenever I'm able to sort of key in on things that have maybe done wrong, and like things that maybe didn't work in the list, or I love that whole aspect of being able to go away with refined purpose and go and refine the ideas and make the changes happen.
I think that my biggest mistake was moving the Leviathan. I didn't need to move it. On hindsight, looking back now, I didn't need to move it. And what I should have done is probably stayed still, shot at your command squad with the Melter Lance and my Flamers and my Melter Gun, and then just assaulted you. I didn't need to move it, but I was obviously prepared for the Legion reaction that you have, and I'd counted on that and to counter something else, but I honestly didn't expect you to charge into my Leviathan with your command squad, because and get that many rending lightning claw hits was quite scary. But
whenever because the lightning claws are just so good at tearing things apart, especially it's really weird because it's especially because I'm only wounding you on sixes that it works, because I'm able to re-roll everything that isn't a six, and just fishing for them and being able to cause that many rending attacks is just so much better than you getting a regular armor save.
Yeah, it is, and now that Leviathans have been pushed to 5 up invulnerable rather than a 4 up like they used to, they're still scary. I mean, I enjoyed using the pair of them.
They're still really tough.
Yeah,
really tough. Yeah. The reactions, the return fires that you did with them.
That was really, so funny.
Really shocked me, and that was only with one storm cannon.
Yeah, it was like, what was it? 6, 5, 5 penetrating hits and a glancing hit on the return fire.
I decided I'm going to fire my Venator that has been sat still. I'm going to shoot everything. Every single thing is a 1. The return fire comes in and the thing explodes.
Yeah, absolutely ripped you to pieces. It's just like, wow, okay. But yeah, it was a very fun game, and the Inducti were quite interesting as well. I'm not overly sure if they're worth taking over a Despoiler squad.
I think that they are better than. I think you need to up the size of them.
Yeah.
10 men isn't enough. You need that. You need
need more.
15 at least.
Yeah, I think. Well, I like the reroll ones. That definitely come in handy with the War Gear of Heroes rule that I have. Was actually did help.
Yeah.
But I think that for me, my man of the match was my Praetor. Holy crap!
Oh.
What an absolute monster he is.
And what did he have, Rick?
He has a hand flamer. oh! His Mastercrafted Thunderhammer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he is scary. It is ridiculously how scary that model is.
Him on his own being able, because he's got battle hardened 1 because he has the Drake mantle.
Yes, he does.
It's so scary. You didn't even bother giving him a storm shield, did you? He
No,
just
I
had
haven't.
his
I haven't given him the shield. Now I could give him the shield for like an extra 10 points.
But even with that, you just kept shrugging every scene on that poor up. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think it was he killed most of the your inducti squad, and then ran them down. He then butchered.
Once he was free of
out,
fire rate,
once he was out,
he was
and he could do
able
what he
to
wants.
sweep every unit he came in contact with.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what he did.
And I think the only reason why I didn't kill that 15-man squad on his own was I rolled a 3 and you rolled a 4 when you ran away.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he would have wiped them out as well. It was like, holy shit, this is nuts. And that's what getting me thinking about how to make him better. And I was like, well, I could just give him the shield, but I lose the flamer, which is not necessarily a major issue.
Not a terrible problem.
I was using my flamers in the game because I was like, I've got them. I'm just going to roll it. I might as well.
Would you ever consider just for peak Praetor, especially whenever he's such a combat monster, not just give him a Paragon blade as a backup?
I actually looked at building a complete new Praetor and having one in Tartarus armor with the shield and a Paragon blade. So he'll have a 2-up armor save, 3-up invulnerable.
I'm talking about a Paragon blade paired with a Thunderhammer.
You can't do that, otherwise then I can't have the shield.
But that would be fine. You turn him into the blender that he was designed to be.
I don't think that's how my Legion fights. I think my Legion is meant to be the anvil that you crush against, and then I pummel the shit out of you. So that kind of fits the sort of way. But I mean, like, I even come up with the idea of putting the Salamander Praetor on the jet bike with the command squad, and that just got ridiculous. Like, it's just stupid, absolutely stupid. Let's just have a model that moves 12 inches on a jet bike, have his Hammer of Wrath.
16?
Something stupid, has like a load of attacks, then has a Paragon blade with a Storm Shield, give him a 2-up, 3-up save with Battle Hardened 1, and then a command squad around him, so he has his own little medic. It's bonkers, and it completely, when everyone thinks about how salamanders are and their whole narrative around them, it's like having a Salamander Praetor flying around on a jet bike just being an absolute dick is not really how people imagine it. But I think it's just the combination of how tanky you can make him, and how lethal he is as well. It's just crazy.
Obviously, jet bikes and jet bike characters, I think, are a topic for another discussion. But it puts into that. It's like what people expect. It's like you don't always need to take what people expect, and you're not locked into.
It's what we've said before. All legions are not.
All legions had access to everything that they had, whether it be less or more of, depending on what sort of style you're going for.
Yeah, definitely.
It's definitely. I mean, there's nothing to say that there wasn't a warband of salamanders which went and they used jet bikes because they had access to jet bikes.
Yeah, it's definitely something to look into, especially when assault marines come. But Other than that,
Bikers.
it has been a very good week. I even painted an Inducti, just one, with a bright orange helmet.
It looks so good.
Does actually look surprisingly good. I need the decals. I really wish the Games Workshop would hurry up and sell my decals. I know they're moving warehouses, but still, I want my decals. I need to put a decal on his head. But yeah, it's they're going to look pretty good when they're. I'm actually quite intrigued about the orange helmets with them. I think it's going to look quite cool. But yeah,
it's going to pop.
But that was been a good week. I have Chris and his Night Lords on Tuesday.
Oh, going to be fun.
It's going to be Kurz versus Vulcan. So,
and I totally predict that Kurz will not want to fight Vulcan.
Yes, 100%, 100%. And Vulcan will bully him and basically get into his lines and try to cause as much damage as he can, and force Vulcan or force Kurz to come and actually try to deal with him.
Yeah, good idea.
He won't. I know how Chris plays, and I certainly know how Chris plays with Kurz, and he does.
Surprise you.
He might actually want that Primarch fight. He never wanted it when I had Lehman Russ. So, and I don't believe did he fight Corax in that fight against the Raven Guard the other week? I don't think he did.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't think he did. I think he stayed away from Corax for the whole game.
I would have thought that Corax and Kurz fight would be quite balanced, to be fair.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but we will report back in next week on how that fight went. But getting on to topic, we're going to be talking about Librarians today, and they're a very interesting unit in regards to. Not so much their rules. There are some really cool things that you can do, and we will go over that. But it's how people react to librarians, because we have some people in our gaming group that are adamant they will not take them because of the law surrounding librarians, which is quite amusing. Very amusing, to be fair.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and it's weirdly all coming from the Imperial Fist players.
Yeah, there's a shock. They're already well powered as it is. They don't need any more help.
Because obviously, it doesn't fit. Well, everybody in the community is like obviously has a theme in mind for what they're doing, and an awful lot of them have the idea and. Very, very shrewdly is like always go as like, no, if during the heresy we're trying to stay away from librarians, we don't want them. And obviously I pertain to that as well because I don't use librarians.
No, but you do have them and you have run them before.
Oh, I use my rune break.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. You're shaman with his earth magic.
Yeah, just like the White Scars have their storm seers.
Yeah. They're all the same thing.
So librarians are librarians in Horus Heresy. I do think it's like there is opportunity to use them. I mean, if I was using a World Eater's army, I would also be tempted to throw a librarian in there.
Really?
Yeah. I really, really do like it.
See, I think the World Eaters Legion should have the rule that they're not allowed to take them.
It's because it's before that happened, and there's some really cool librarian World Eater characters from the Heresy novels.
Yeah, and then they all die.
Yeah, but...
Because Angron kills them.
Yeah, but he kills them much later.
But he even orders them not to be near him. So they're not in any of his detachments. They're not anywhere near Angron. So even if they had the rule on Angron that states that if Angron's in your army, then you can't take a librarian, which would make it,
which is fair,
which would be very thematic, because he just flat out didn't, because they hurt him. They hurt his head. They affected the nails. So you shouldn't be able to take a librarian in a
But
detachment with anger.
I'm talking about a force without anger on it. I would be more than
What?
happy.
There's
I
a
mean,
will.
world leaders are, let's be honest, a legion of people that hate each other as much as everybody else.
Well,
Like they
yes.
absolutely shit on themselves, and yeah, it's not enough. Not enough of them is really put forward to being their shit heels to people that don't conform to what they like.
Well, I don't. I'm not so sure it's that. I think they just have a complete disregard for life.
For everything.
They
Yeah,
just they don't care.
they're trying to impress dad,
Yeah,
but at
like
the end of the day,
eternal
but
glory is everything to them.
I think it's there's a character from the World Leaders, White Eyes, who was killed during the drop site massacre.
Right.
I think Karn ends up killing him. He was shunned by the rest of the World Leaders forces, something like that. But obviously, they hate librarians, and yes, no, I would still put a librarian in a World Leaders force.
I think the traders will definitely use it. I mean, once once the runestorm list comes out and
Yeah,
people start pulling their demon armies out, watch how quickly those Imperial Fist players pull librarians out their ass when they realise that they're really really good against demons. And we will
yeah.
show you why they're really good, because like literally they really are good against demons. So basically, how do you take a librarian in your army? It's very simple. You take a centurion for 60 points, and you pay the 45 points for your console upgrade, essentially. Now, it says 45 points, but in reality, it's about 60, because you're going to pay the extra 15 points for that psychic hood.
Yes, and I would actually say that even though there aren't many people using psychers in our
Still take one.
little in our community,
Yes.
I think that the psychic hood is definitely still worth taking
Yeah.
because on the off chance that they do, then it pays for itself.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Now
It
we're
really,
we're
really
we're
does.
not going to talk about the Thousand Sons, because the Thousand Sons are getting an entire episode all to themselves. Because this, what we're
And
talking about now, is basically the sort of the tip of the spear when it comes to psychic potential in your army. A Thousand Sons army ramps this up to 11. They're crazily good when it comes to the psychic powers. So, and they have access to a lot of different things that a normal bog standard librarian isn't going to get to play with. So
yeah,
we'll just stick to the normal librarian. Now there is the other type of librarian, which is the
esoterist.
esoterist, which I don't really know much about because I've not really looked into. But there is a
I can
model
actually
for
tell
it.
you, I can actually tell you a little bit about them.
They're weird.
So
They are psychics,
it
aren't they?
they are still psychers, but instead of the librarian console
Yeah,
has access to all the different normal
psychic disciplines.
your biomancy, divination, all your regular spell books, right?
Yeah,
Because we're talking about space wizards, so I'm just going to talk about it like space wizards. So they've got access to a load of different stuff. The esoterist is much more refined and is either your anti-psyker or your pro-psyker. It's like your demonologist almost.
yeah. This is probably why they fit more into a trader army rather
They
than
do, but
because of the whole demon aspect.
you can take them as a loyalist and as like their like proto Grey Knight sort of stature. It's like that's the sort of they've decided they're going to
Yeah,
fight demon stuff.
yeah,
They're like the nullifactors, but in power armor,
yeah.
that sort of thing.
Now, just on a note of other things as well, is like if you've got a friend that is running a lot of librarians, and they're really annoying, ally in a unit of Silent Sisterhood just to shut that shit down.
Is that how they work? Is
Yes,
you just cannot activate a psychic power if you're within range?
I believe so, or I'll have to check because I don't have the new Talons book. But as far as I'm aware, that's how they used to work in first edition. You just couldn't do psychic powers anywhere near them.
I haven't actually heard of many people talking about the sisters.
Yeah, because we don't really have much of a psychic thing, and no one really plays Thousand Suns. I guarantee that if
Yeah,
I'd have chosen the Thousand Suns rather than the Salamanders, you would see sisters started popping up in people's armies, just to do what they need. Because as far as I'm aware, they either have massive modifiers onto the psychic tests, or you just can't do
yeah.
psychic powers if you're within range of them. They're
Mm.
they're the literally the counter to psychic powers. So
I really look forward to people fielding demons. I think it's part of the heresy, which obviously is lacking at the minute.
yes,
Um,
yes. Well, the good thing is the demon rules are in the main rulebook.
yeah, yeah.
So you can see what the demons are going to do in the main rulebook, because a lot of people were like, "Oh my god, there's no rules for demons." Yes, there is. The rules for demons are in the main rulebook. We just don't have the list.
So the only list that we have is like allies of the Ruin Storm. It's like
Yeah,
what the current like Forge World line is.
yeah. But
For
I've
them.
got a feeling that when that list finally comes out, it'll be full of a lot of the normal plastic
I
demons.
I really hope that they don't go that route,
I do.
and I hope
It
that
doesn't.
they are designing a new demon line to
No,
correspond with Heresy.
no, I don't think they will. I don't think they will. I don't think they'll waste that much resources on it. For essentially a niche game inside a niche game. What they will probably do is have a lot of HQs and elite units, specifically like they do for the legions, but then turn around and go, "Hey, if you want like bog standard demons, here's some
Well,
bloodletters."
that's the thing
Because
because they're going to expand. We have no idea how they're going to expand it beyond what they've done for the Forge World one,
yeah,
because it's clearly not just going to be a transplant of
the reason why I've got that
all
is
of the demon
if
range.
you look at the picture that's on the page in the rulebook, it's of the plastic bloodthirster.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of plastic demons from 40k and Age of Sigmar in that photo. And from a business standpoint, it kind of makes sense for them to repurpose some of their already existing kits for demons. So I can imagine them doing that.
Yeah.
I would be tempted to do a demon army just so I could run a couple of greater demons and maybe some more specialist type demon characters from the actual Forge World. But yeah, it'll be very interesting. I'm very looking forward to it. So getting back onto Librarians. So the console is that you pay your 45 points for. You have your Legion Librarian basic thing, right? So he gets a couple of special rules and he gets a couple of war gear options. Now, to start off with, you get all of the options that a Centurion has, but you get to replace a few things if you've taken certain things. So if you've taken like a power weapon, you can change that power weapon into a force weapon at no additional cost, which is kind of cool.
Or what you will want to do is replace the bolt pistol. Because you can do that specifically.
Yeah, it does. It says you can replace the power weapon, bolt pistol, or combi bolter with a force weapon. Now, I would say that it'll look at seeing how certain psychic powers work, because there's like certain attacks that are either going to be ranged or melee, and how that would sort of replace your thing. But I mean, would you really?
At the end, I think we'll give a couple of like builds, because I have a few in mind whenever it comes to if you're in power armor or if you're in Terminator armor.
Yeah.
So we can go into that afterwards, because there's obviously because they gain access to every psychic power from the main rulebook.
They do, yes. And then some legions may have their own. So
some legions have their own, but let's dive into the main stuff first, I guess.
Going to look at psychic HUDs first. For anyone who doesn't know what a psychic HUD is.
If psychic HUD is something that we've already said is pretty much, I would include.
Oh yeah, it is an auto-clude. You're going to pay the 15 points without
it is 15 points, and psychic HUD means that any model within 18 inches and line of sight of the model with the psychic HUD must reduce its leadership by 2 and make a psychic check.
That's huge.
Its modifier is not cumulative, and no model may suffer from penalties from more than 1 psychic HUD.
That's really, really big. -2
so
is really
that
big.
Also means, whenever you're doing a psychic check, are you affected by the -1 leadership of night fighting?
No.
Okay.
It's an unmodified leadership unless there's a psychic HUD there.
Okay.
So no, you're not affected by
nighttime.
You're not affected by anything else that would, like, fear or anything like that. It's basically just a straight leadership check. And the only really thing that affects that is a psychic HUD, or probably demony stuff and
Thousand Suns, Sisters of Silence, that sort of thing.
Thousand Suns are pretty much psychers on juice.
Yeah, but and I think there may be a few like demon things which are able to combat psychers as well. But
So basically, demons. So quickly onto the demons. So let's just check, because I know there's psychic rules in regards to that affect.
Corrupted subtypes affected by psychic weapons are really hurt by them.
Yeah, especially corruption gives you the demon rule, though, doesn't it?
So corruption used to be that corrupted units just became demon units, and that's the way it was in the first edition.
Yeah.
Now in second edition, corrupted units. So corrupted units are hurt by psychic. They're really, really hurt by psyker units and things with the force focus and things like that.
Yeah, but they don't. Did they gain the specific demon rule?
No, they have their own. They have their own name for it.
That's good, because later on there's a power that we're going to be talking about which really fucks demons. So
I think there are some demon units. Certainly the Galvorback and the Marigal Dreadnought.
Oh yeah, you'll still be. Yeah, they've got demon rules, but the corrupted rules maybe not. So psychic disciplines is when you get your librarian, you get a psychic discipline. Now you can choose from the core, the ones from the core rulebook, or you can choose your legion specific. So, like, as a Salamander player, if I take a certain rite of war, I have access to my own psychic power for my librarian, which is not very good, and we'll touch about it later on a little bit. But
we should also one thing that we should touch on is I think that there are some legions which can only take from certain. It's like I think there may be legion restrictions at times for what sort of psychic powers you can take.
That will probably tell you I've not seen that in any of the loyalist ones yet.
I'm just looking up, having a quick flick through just to see if I'm mad.
I think you might be. I've not heard of any restrictions on certain powers. As far as I'm aware,
have you ever heard of an Iron Hands librarian?
Well, maybe. When they actually listen to this podcast, they might think, "Do you know what? That would be really good." Yeah. Especially to keep old Perturabo alive. You found that? No? I think you're crazy. I don't think there is. So if you think there is any legions that can't use certain psychic powers, drop it in the comments. Let us know. Let us know what you think. because Kyle is losing it. He hasn't had his coffee today. He's derailing it. Right, so the first generic power that you all get, regardless of what discipline you take, is Aetheric Lightning. Right, this is not very good. I'm just going to say that now. So it's a shooting attack. It's got an 18-inch range. It's strength 3. It's AP 4. It's assault 4. It's got the force rule. So the force rule is basically when you make an attack, and if you have the force rule, you do a psychic test, and if you pass the psychic test, it basically doubles your strength. So this means you're strength 6 if you do a psychic test, and your AP 4 with assault 4. That's it. It's basically Palpatine lightning, but not very good Palpatine lightning.
If I don't have a shooting psychic power, I think I would ignore this and use a bolt pistol.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's it's not great.
It's there.
Yeah, it's there if you want it. It's like I don't understand why they just didn't keep Smite in the game, because Smite was a lot better than this, but this is what replaced Smite in 2nd edition, and it's pretty
forgettable.
Yeah,
I think is the word.
Just ignore that and go straight to the psychic disciplines. So the first psychic discipline is Biomancy. Now, this is definitely interesting.
I think it's the way that this. I'm just looking through the book at the minute, and the way that it's set up is so much simpler than it was in version 1.
Oh, version 1 was nuts. Like, you had basically all of the psychic disciplines, and each one of them had anything from up to 6 psychic powers that you had to randomly roll on.
So
that's how you got them, unless you were Magnus.
For any listeners who are only new to 2nd edition Heresy, they used to have their own psychic phase because it was based off of 7th edition rules.
Yes.
And so they had their own psychic phase, and if you were playing Thousand Suns, you were pretty much the only one who ever used the psychic phase.
The reason why the psychic powers what's that?
The psychic phase in version 1 was
but the vast majority of the stuff that was used wasn't done like in the psychic phase. It was done in the shooting phase. So it was really weird. Like, the reason why it's changed and toned down so much is because of the Thousand Suns, because
I think it's so much better that they've reintroduced it to doing the thing in the phase that it's done in.
Yes, that's great.
And that it simplifies it. It speeds the game up. It's not clunky, which I think is a really underrated part of the game.
Yeah. So one of the things that you would have seen in 1st edition with Thousand Suns is a thing known as the Magnus Bomb. And essentially you took Magnus, you took a load of Sekhmet Terminators. Now this only really worked if you rolled for that certain power, but Magnus was able to manipulate those rolls to essentially guarantee the Nova ability from Pyroclast. And you would deep strike Magnus and all of your Terminators, and because of how his psychic powers worked, he amplified it depending on how many units were around him. And in 1st edition, we had a strength characteristic known as D, or Destroyer, which basically was kind of like how instant death works. Or if you've played Age of Sigmar or current 40k, essentially mortal wounds that you can't stop it, basically. And the Nova ability was like something like stupid 24 inches out from Magnus. So the whole point was you would drop down and do the Magnus Bomb on a D hit. So everything that got hit by it was pretty much auto-killed, and you couldn't really stop it. And that's pretty much why Thousand Suns were so despised in first edition. And one of the things that they kind of in 7.5, they kind of tweaked it. They removed the invisibility straight away. They kind of toned the psychic bomb down, but it was still obnoxious and it could still kind of be done. And then they literally rewrote how psychic powers work in second edition, which is by far the best. But the Thousand Sons do have quite a few issues when it comes to psychic powers because of how they work, and we'll go into that on their podcast.
Yeah.
But they're not the auto I'm going to screw everybody up, because in first edition the game was brilliant until the Thousand Sons got rules, and then everyone went fuck.
The way that you can describe psychic powers now is that, obviously, Thousand Sons aside, is that you're going to have maybe one or two psychers in an army at most.
Yeah.
And they give cool buffs to units, or they do something offensive.
Yeah, they really do.
And that's the way that it's broken down. It's normally an offensive and a defensive thing that they have.
Kind of. It really depends on the power.
It really does. So, because we've talked about etheric lightning, it is the most forgettable thing in the world. So biomancy, so everything breaks down into you get two powers.
You get a power and you get a weapon.
Weapon, right? Okay.
So you get a power and you get a weapon, basically.
All right.
So the biomancy power, and this is the thing that you have to do. You make sure that you read your power, because you don't always have to take a psychic test to do something. So your power is, instead of making a shooting attack, a psychic with this psychic power may select a single friendly unit within 6 inches. Can also choose itself. That increases its strength by +1 for the duration of the current player turn. So you're going to basically be able to buff yourself +1 strength going into combat in the combat phase. That's kind of how you're looking at that. Now, if you do a psychic test, which you roll your 2d6, score underneath your leadership, hoping that there's no psychic HUD within 18 inches, you increase your toughness as well as your strength by +1, which is actually quite nice. So if you look at something like a Primarch in your command squad, or that's within 6 inches, you can buff up your Primarch +1 strength and toughness. Or that Praetor of Doom that you have, or that Legion champion, or even the Psyker himself, if you're really that way inclined. So it's quite a nice little utility to have, and there's quite a few of these powers in the main core, which are quite cool.
There's a downside to that, of course, as well, because if you fail the check, you gain no benefits at all.
Yeah,
and you suffer a powerful one,
which is basically D3 wounds.
D3 wounds that have to be taken on an invulnerable save.
Yeah, so you can kill yourself, but that's the fun of taking a psyker. It is quite fun. Right, so the psychic weapon is basically a melee hit. So your strength 10, your AP 4, it has rending 4 and psychic focus. Now, psychic focus is basically a rule that says that to do this, you need to take a psychic test. So if it's got psychic focus, you need to take a psychic test before you roll to hit. Which is a strength 10 hit, but it's AP 4. It's not bad. Really what you're looking for is that rending 4+. That's kind of what you're wanting. But is it worth the risk? Not really.
It's treated as a melee weapon, so you're going to get all of your normal amount of attacks.
You are, but there's also that risk of the psychic focus of the perils. So
yeah, because obviously you need to make a psychic check to use it. But theoretically, I mean, passing that, then you've got strength 10, 5-6 attacks if you. No, 5 attacks if you charged.
Yeah, but for the points for 15 points for a power weapon, you could take a power axe, give it force, and essentially do almost the same thing.
Not on initiative though.
No, you're right, not an initiative, but
I I I think it's cool, but a force sword does very similar things to this,
yeah,
and you don't need to activate it.
yeah.
You could even use the force
Well, you still have to do a psychic test for the
force
force
attack,
to turn the force
but
ability on.
it would still.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's cool, but for me, it's the biomancy is all about buffing, and
rending four up is the saving grace for it though.
yeah, that's. I mean, if it was AP3, then I would be like, ooh, that would definitely be something
Although,
I
I
would
mean,
want to use.
you're hitting things with strength 10 and rending. You could quite easily kill Spartans in your own with that.
Potentially, especially if you buff yourself.
Yeah.
Mm. So that is biomancy.
The
It's okay. I quite like it.
you,
There's
you
play
take
there to be used.
you take it for biomantic augmentation. It's why you would take biomancy.
Yeah,
It's the crown jewel of what it does.
yeah. It's there to. Now there are some quite fun combos if you take two librarians. Later on, it's actually quite amusing, but uh, I quite like biomancy for the fact that you can buff that character to be a little bit more powerful. Now, I mean, imagine putting that on my Praetor, who's got the battle hardened 1, so he's now tough. He's now toughness 5. So you're gonna have to use strength 10 weapons to insta kill him.
There's nothing stopping you throwing this on a Leviathan Dreadnought.
No, it's just a single friendly unit. So yeah, it's yeah. But you've got to. He's got to be within 6. So there's fun times. So the next one is divination. So your psychic power is instead of making a shoot and attack, a psycho with this psychic power selects a single friendly unit within 12 inches. I really like this ability. The target gains precision 6+ and precision shots 6+ for the duration of the player's turn. And then when using this power, the controlling player may take a psychic check, and you increase that to a 5+. Now, obviously, if you fail, you get no benefits and you take a perils. I really like this because it's a 12-inch range, and you can do precision shots, and you choose a unit.
Well, you choose whether you want to do the psychic check or not. So there's a safe version, or there's the
well,
you'll
find that in a lot of the powers are pretty much like that. You get like something that you can just do, but if you really want to gamble on the warp, here's a little bonus for you. I like this one because if you've got a decent shooting unit or a really cool close combat unit within range that's about to fight something, like as a good example, your Grey Slayers that often have an apothecary or that annoying champion that's not going to do anything other than not fight in duels, or something like that. You can like use your precision just to single those guys out and get rid of them. So I like that. And also it works in the shooting phase as well. So and it lasts for the rest of the turn. So you do this at the start of your shooting phase. So the first thing you do in your shooting phase is you do this ability. Pick your unit, then you choose them to shoot. They now have precision shots on a 5+, which is really, really cool because you can start singling out the shit that you want to get rid of. And then in the close combat phase, you can then get rid of everything else that you need to get rid of while the guys mop up the rest of the squad. So it's kind of cool. I like that. I like it a lot. The psychic...
It's got that versatility.
Yeah, it does. The problem is, and we'll get to the one that is the issue shortly, but I think there's a lot of cool things to be that get overlooked, and I think divination is definitely one of them. The psychic weapon is interesting. It's an 18-inch ranged shot, assault 1, strength 6, AP 2, but it has sniper and guided fire. So you can turn your psyker into a sniper, basically, which is kind of cool. But it's only one shot. And it's only strength 6. So in most cases, you're going to be hitting on 2s, wounded on 3s. AP2.
I want to know what guided fire does.
I actually thought the same and then completely forgot about checking the rule up.
I'm just looking it up now.
Well, sniper it basically allows you to target characters in squads, basically.
Guided fire, you don't need line of sight.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Indirect mind bullets. Cool.
Yep.
So there's definitely...
You still need to be within range, but yeah, you don't need line of sight to shoot people. That's kind of cool.
This is kind of cool because it's a cool power, and I think it's one of the ones that gets overlooked a lot. But there's definitely a lot of play and a lot of tactical synergies you can do with your units with this to really, especially if you've got like a lot of characters in your opponent's army that are really causing problems, like apothecaries, another librarian, a master of signals.
Use this to pick off sergeant.
Yeah, you can just start like getting rid of those vexillars, those augury scanners if you're playing night fighting, and stuff like that. So it's really kind of handy. I think it's got a lot of play, but
if you're worried about the Overwatch, you can get rid of a heavy weapon.
Yeah.
Or that melt-a-gun that might be in there.
Yeah, but you'll see why none of these are going to get touched very shortly. The next one, and this is probably one of my favourites for the amount of jank that you can do with it, is pyromancy. So the psychic power is, instead of making a shooting attack, a psyker with this psychic power can place a large blast template, 5-inch marker, anywhere on the battlefield that is entirely within 18 inches and within line of sight of the psyker. Once placed, you scatter the marker D6 to determine its final position and leave it in place until the beginning of the controlling player's next turn. Next shooting phase. So the area under the marker counts as difficult terrain, and any model friendly or enemy under the marker's position or that moves onto or through the marker suffers a strength 6 AP4 hit. When using the psychic power, the controlling player may choose to do a psychic test and instead throw up to 3 5-inch blast templates out. And any models under more than one blast marker using this power suffers 1 hit for each blast marker that it's under. And if you fail, obviously take a perils, nothing happens. Now, the reason why I like this is it's a shooting attack. You can do this in the Overwatch. So if someone is going to charge you, you can choose to do this in the Overwatch, fire it out so it's on them, or they have to go through it. Now, yes, it's going to scatter D6, but reality, it's probably going to move about 3 inches at the most, and it's a 5-inch template, so it's not really going to be that bad. It might go back onto you, but just be aware that that is the gamble that you're playing. But the really cool thing is the difficult terrain, which means that if you're charging through difficult terrain, you strike at initiative level 1. So you can...
It's more movement problems that you're causing than that, because every squad of Marines has frag grenades, so it doesn't care about the initiative penalty.
Are you sure?
Pretty much every Marine unit does have frag. Terminators and suffer if you don't have a grenade harness.
Well, that's true, but it's still pushing things down to initiative 1, but it's also doing a lot of the damaging. It's kind of gamey with what you can do. The fact that you can do it in Overwatch is really quite interesting, and you could pop out 3 of them. And a lot of people may not necessarily want to run through it because it's a lot of strength 6 hits that you could potentially get.
I mean, strength 6 and AP4 is nothing to be shrugged at.
No, you're making people roll saves.
You're wounding people on 2s.
Yeah. 3s.
So, yeah. No, 2s.
Was it 2s?
Yeah.
What 2s is double the strength?
The hit and wounds chart changed.
All right, okay. I thought it would have been 3s. Wow. But either way, still quite a lot of hits. And you can put that aerial denial out, so to kind of make people sort of second guess wanting to charge you. And then there's the fun thing, if they don't have any grenades, then they're going to be fighting last, which is really fun. The psychic weapon is basically a melee hit, and it's strength 6, AP 3. It's unwieldy, so you're going at initiative 1. It's pyromantic, and it has the desolation rule. So the pyromantic desolation, in addition to making attacking normally in the assault phase, when a model equipped with this weapon attacks, place a 3-inch blast marker centered on the attacking model. All models wholly or partially under the marker, friendly or enemy, suffer an automatic hit with the profile shown. So you kind of like slam your hammer into the ground, basically. Kind of do a big Thor hit. But it's friendly.
Why on earth does it have wounds caused by this do not count for the purposes of resolving the winner of the assault?
I don't know.
That is terrible.
Yeah, I mean, when I was looking at this and the sort of like kind of work out what you could do, I looked at the power and was like, yeah, cool, and then went, ooh, some of the shenanigans with this is actually quite interesting. So yeah, this, I think if you really want a sort of bit of fun, a little bit of jank, and especially if you're coming up against a Pride of Legion army with a lot of Terminators, and people are trying to save on points and not bringing grenade harnesses, there's definitely fun there to be had. And I think
I'm thinking that a pyromancer librarian would want to go around and try and bully like regular TAC Marine squads. This is like the things that it's like not elite things, and go and absolutely wreck regular guys.
I'm looking at this as more of a defensive rather than an offensive ability. Offensive ability is great. You can throw the pie plates out at everybody, and they're staying there until your next shooting phase. So if you're going second, your opponent has had to deal with this at least twice. Or if you're going first.
I'm actually, I really am digging the pyromancer.
It does have play. I have told you some of them do. Unfortunately, it's all going to pale in comparison very, very soon.
I get that.
So the next one is telekinesis. Now, this has probably some of the best utility, which I don't think anybody has ever really sort of looked at and thought of. But basically, instead of making a move in the movement phase, the Psyker with this ability may instead activate the psychic power. So all models, friendly and enemy, that are within 8 inches, gains a 6-up invulnerable save. Okay, which is pretty cool, given things invulnerables. Now you don't move, but that's okay. When targeted by a model that is not within 8 inches of the Psyker, if the Psyker moves, makes a shooting attack, or charges, or is successfully charged by an enemy model, the psychic power immediately ends. Otherwise, it remains in effect indefinitely. Now, that is really important for some of the things you can do with this. Now, you could do a psychic test and get yourself a 4-up invulnerable save indefinitely, as long as if nothing touches that Psyker. So the way I look at this is, I can have maybe, I don't know, 2 las cannon squads sitting at the back of the field and on a building, and put a librarian out of line of sight at deployment, and the first thing he does is this psychic power on turn 1, and he's not going to move, he's not going to shoot, he's not going to do fuck all for the rest of the game. I'm not even going to invest in any weapons for him, because why would I want to do that? I want to keep him as cheap as possible, because he is literally there to give my 2 heavy weapon squads a 4-up invulnerable save. And you just have him set at the back of the board. Or your tanks that are going to sit at the back line and start firing at things. I think it's kind of naughty, and it kind of puts a lot of pressure on your opponents to try to get round the back to get to him to turn that off. Especially if those las cannon squads, which we know are quite obnoxiously good.
Yeah, I get that, and I get it's like having a fire base
Yeah.
In your army.
This is where you'll see an Iron Warriors librarian.
Yes.
An Iron Warriors librarian is right here. They take a telekinesis, they hide behind a wall so nothing can touch them, and they're giving all of those Havoc squads, even though they don't have Havoc squads anymore, that 4-up invulnerable. It's okay, you're paying 100 points for the ability to do it,
I mean,
but that's pretty good.
Like, even not doing the psychic test and doing that 6-up invulnerable save in a bubble of 8 inches.
Yeah.
It's like you're able to get a fair amount in that range, and you could be blanketing your tactical squad blobs or despoiler blobs as you're going along. It's like once you get there and activate the power, you just sit there and everything that you have is just in range of getting 6-up invulns.
It is, but the problem is as soon as he's attacked, it automatically stops. So
that is absolutely fine.
But
you don't just leave him on his own. He will be in a squad.
But he can't move.
But you don't need to activate this turn 1, and you can.
But
it
doesn't matter.
On the move as well.
Yeah, but it's instead of making a movement.
Yeah.
So, you could potentially pop it in once you're in combat because he's not moving anywhere. And once you're locked in combat, you could potentially pop it, but he can't fight. He can't do anything. He can't be targeted by anything. So
you'd stick him in the second line and just keep him out of that combat while other units are pushed into it.
Yeah, but then the risk for that is if anything has precision or snipers or recon, they're going to take that librarian out once they work out what you're trying to do.
There's no point in worrying about every contingency.
No, but I'm looking at the guaranteed combo, which is your backline stuff, which you can because a lot of points are going to be sunk into that 10-man las cannon squad, and if you take one las cannon squad, a lot of the time that's going to be priority number 1 that your opponent is going to smash to get rid of it because it's going to be extremely damaging to his army. So to basically ensure that doesn't happen, you can do this. Now, obviously, if you go second, it doesn't make a difference. That las cannon squad's getting smashed turn 1. But if you've definitely getting to go turn 1 first, then I would definitely be looking at that. If you're playing those type of legions that sit back and shoot, I would be tempted to do it in my Salamander army because we're not really an in-your-face type of legion. Or especially something like an Iron Warriors or even an Iron Hands army would potentially be able to pull this off. It's just giving you that extra layer of protection for units that are always going to be priority targets and need to be killed as quickly as possible. So your a psychic weapon for this ability is not bad. It's a 24-inch range. It's strength 8, AP 4. It's heavy 1, sunder, blast marker 3. So you can kind of do a little bit of damage to other things, but personally, if you're taking telekinesis, you're taking it for the invulnerable save, so you're not going to be really looking at firing that weapon out. Because
it's good as an option. It's actually I really like the stats. It's a blast. Sure, you're heavy. You're not moving already, so your dome is already going to be in play.
Yeah.
It's strength 8 AP 4, so if you fail your save, you've lost whatever sort of size marine it is, and you can fail saves. And with blasts, you'll get, with good placement, 3-4 people or 3-4 models underneath it. So.
Yeah, it's there's definitely a lot of interesting things you can do with telekinesis. I do like the idea of giving that blanket protection over something, even like a squadron of tanks.
It is definitely more defensive in nature,
Yeah,
and definitely helps with that sort of bunker
yeah.
style tactic.
So, you know, like we said at the start, we never see Iron Warriors with a Librarian. There's your options right here, peeps. Unfortunately, the next one is what you're going to see 99.9999% of librarians using, unfortunately, because it is so damn good. And that's telepathy. And this is what I used against Kyle on our game. This is super strong because of what it does. So once per turn, at the start of any phase, a Psyker with a psychic power controlling player may select an enemy unit within 24 inches in line of sight of the Psyker and takes a psychic check. If the set check is passed, that unit cannot make a reaction. Now, you do this in any phase, so you can do it in your movement phase, your shooting phase, or your charging combat phase. So if you don't want to get an Overwatch off before you go in, you can turn that off. If you like against the Space Wolves, where their Legion trait, where they can move and assault you in your movement phase, which can be extremely hard and really annoying to have to deal with, then this shuts that down straight away if you want to be able to move and dictate how you want your movement phase to go, which is kind of what I did with you.
For even from a more basic standpoint, I mean, because it's got so much versatility because it can be just popped off at any phase.
Yeah, it's also like you want to smash that lance cannon squad, but you really don't want the return fire reaction. You do this at the start of your shooting phase and turn that reaction off, so they ain't returning fire, and then you smash that lance cannon squad. That's the reason why you see this a lot. It's not just because it can fuck around with Space Wolves, which is fun, but it's the fact that you can, because reactions are so strong, like the return fire, the sort of redeploy, Overwatch. The fact that you can literally go, no, you're not doing that. You're not playing what you want to do. You're doing what I want you to do, and that is get shot the fuck out of. It's
really good.
It is really powerful. Anything that plays around with reactions is incredibly strong in second edition.
I mean, I still wouldn't say that it's broken.
No, but if you're going to see a librarian, that's what they're going to be running because of the way that it manipulates reactions. And then also because of this.
I think the fact that you have to get them within 24 of your target.
Pretty easy.
Pretty easy, yes, but if your opponent knows that you're wandering around with the librarian with this power, they're gonna just feed you other things and deal with you from further away.
Yeah, but it's if you plan this right. So if I move and I'm getting within 24 if that psychic gets within 24 inches of that las cannon squad, you know what I'm going to do. You know I'm going to turn that off, and then I'm going to kill it.
A librarian on a jet bike would be pretty tough to deal with, because then you've got control of the board in terms of reaction.
Yeah. It can be really obnoxious if used in those ways, and that's why it's so powerful. So,
but again, I mean that only going to be one unit, 2 max, unless you're talking about it's like Thousand Suns being a separate thing that we're going to look at. I mean, 1 to max 3 for Crusade style Force Org chart for what HQs you have available.
I couldn't.
If you're doubling down and you're going, no, I need to really lock down every possible threat, then sure, you've done that, but
that's a lot. Okay. That's a good 200 plus points to basically control whatever you want.
Reactions, yeah.
Is it worth it? Not really. 2's overkill. It's not a 3. It's not a 3 Spartan meta. 2 telepathy. That's overkill.
It's also why you find, like, most people, whenever they're playing games of Heresy, is like they take one-offs, unless it's like a standard troop burn stuff, as like their Centurions. If
Yeah,
they're taking multiple HQs, they're wanting to be different
yeah.
or to fulfill a specific role.
Well,
If
that's
you're
what your
just going,
Centurions are.
yeah,
It's to fill
yeah,
those roles.
but you very rarely see is like, well, you've barely unheard of is like double, triple librarians. It's like I've got a
No,
librarian, I'm trying him out, or I'm wanting to try and stop
yeah.
something.
Like I
Um,
enjoy my librarian, and until I get my champion, because the champion model's beautiful. My librarian will probably be a mainstay in my army for a while
I think
until I get
I think
multiple
that's good.
choices. Um, but there's so many different things here that I want to play around with. I don't want to always use this.
Okay.
But like the psychic weapon is probably one of the the funniest things ever. I think is the fact that it's a 36-inch range. It's a shooting attack. It has no strength. It has no AP. It's assault 6 and it's got hallucinations. So basically, you can essentially pin units. Now, a quick caveat on this: if the army that you're fighting is stubborn or is fearless, this is completely pointless. You're not going to be able to do shit with it because it's
Ah,
a pinning test, and if you're fearless, you pass all pinning tests, and if you're stubborn, you ignore all modifiers. Now, although I did hear in a podcast that someone said that this does work against stubborn, but that would recording. I'll have to read the actual wording. Immediately, add 1 to the result of the hit roll scored. For example, if the attacker has an enemy unit of leadership 8, scores 3 hits, then that unit must take an immediate pinning test and add 3 to the result. Ah, right, okay,
yeah.
that's why.
So it's because
So
it's
it
because it's
adds to
adding to the
yeah.
result.
So
Yeah.
it adds to the result, not the it doesn't modify your leadership. So,
Yeah.
but fearless, it doesn't matter. Fearless, you're automatically passing pinning tests
Yeah.
anyway. So, but
And
basically,
any units immune to pinning will obviously get through this as well.
yeah. So, like salamanders have a right of war that we just don't care. Um, and it kind of would kind of work against the stubborn. But it's I can't ever really need to worry about it ever really happening to me because
It's really good.
most of our gaming group don't take librarians. But this
Yeah,
is good because
it's hard to judge.
I did this to you on our game. I fired the 6
Mm-hmm.
shots. I got 4 hits. You failed your leadership by quite a lot, and you were pinned, which then meant you couldn't assault me because I did this as an Overwatch reaction.
Yeah.
Now that was kind of cool, and that's one of the cool things you can do with it. If you are charged, you can basically pin them before they actually make their charge roll, which is funny because they've already declared the charge, so they can't then do anything else.
I think it's quite weird. Not for the fact that I think it's obviously very good whenever you're interacting with Overwatch.
Yeah,
I would be less inclined to be using this as a shooting attack.
I would probably maybe do it in conjunction with, say, setting up for a charge. Because what happens if you're assaulted when pinned? You can't react to it for a start.
No, you can't react, and it's another way of
Yeah,
locking down a reaction.
yeah.
But
So I mean,
depending on what you're trying to charge, they will. Well, it's like if you're using this as a shooting attack, they do have the option of returning fire, and that could be very bad for you.
unless I've started my phase and said no reactions this time.
That you can do one effect at a time. You can't do both.
Why can you not do one at a time?
Well, because if you're doing something in the shooting phase, then how are you countering that?
But you're not. You do once per turn at the start of the shooting phase.
Yeah,
The psychic does his psychic power.
right.
Why does it say that you can't then shoot? It's not
Because
instead of a shooting
because
attack. You just do it at the start of the phase.
Your psychic weapon is a shooting attack.
Yeah, but the psychic power isn't. The psychic power is just a power. It's not a shooting attack. It doesn't say instead of making a shooting attack like it does on the others. It just says at the start of the phase you do this. So you could turn off a reaction. Now, I'm only coming this from an Age of Sigmar 40k way of thinking. Now, unless there's an FAQ just to specifically state that that's how that works. In the other games, basically, unless it specifically states that you can't do something, you can do it. This states that you just do it at the start of the phase. So I could, by looking at this as raw, I can pop this at the start of the phase and then shoot you with my shooting attack in the shooting phase. So I can turn off your reaction, pin your ass, and then assault you in the charge phase, and you're not doing shit. So that again, I think I'll after the podcast I'll check to see if there's an actual FAQ, and when I edit I'll put it up on the text if that's true or not. But as far as I'm aware, and as far as the way the game works, it hasn't said I can't.
Yeah, no, I see it. I see it where you're coming from, and it would work like that.
Yeah, unless there's an actual FAQ to say that otherwise. But I would go for you can do it and you can shoot in the same phase because you're not doing this in lieu of your shooting attack. So, but it's this is the main one that you're going to see all the frigging time, and it's a shame because it can be incredibly powerful. In regards to that, you can kind of control how things are going to work, and you can shut your opponent down.
I mean, that unit would be very scary to go up against because it controls what it does.
Yeah. And the way second edition works is a lot of it is linked into reactions. So, like as a good example, when we played, now I could have done this like against your Venenator. I could have stopped it from overwatching or like returning fire, and then opened up with the Leviathan on you, and then charged you. Do you see what I mean? And then or shot at your.
You would have been able to prevent me evading with the tank and stuff. Yeah, it's definitely it's got a lot of utility. I'd actually think the hallucinations is very, very strong. Too strong.
Yeah, you're not the only person that said that. But you've been on the receiving end of it, so you've seen how annoying that is.
I've been on the receiving end of it, but until it's been in front of me, I didn't realize how silly it can be.
Yes. Yeah. It's
because of the range that it has as well.
36 inches.
It can be disgusting.
Yeah. Hi, 10-man last cannon squad all the way at the other side of the board. Guess what you're not doing? It's nuts. Ideally what I would like to see is that FAQ so it's only got like an 18-inch range rather than 36. Because like 36-inch range is pretty much after turn one, you're pretty much hitting anything in the board.
Why does it need to be 36?
It's mind bullets. It's mind bullets. He's like, dead. But it doesn't do any damage. It's just like...
No. Telekinesis psychic power is heavy.
Yeah.
Where does that... How? What?
Basically, you got a heavy bolter in his head. Turns his hands into two big heavy bolters and just unloads.
Okay.
So I can't even pronounce the next word, but basically it's all healing. So the psychic power is instead of making a shooting attack, the psycho with the psychic power may select a single friendly unit within at least one model within 12 inches and make a psychic test. If the psychic is passed, then all non-vehicle models in the target unit may roll a d6, and on a 5+, that model regains a lost wound. This ability cannot increase the wound's characteristics beyond its starting characteristic. So essentially, you can heal the Primarch. You can heal a Primarch. Now I'm pretty sure Leviathan Dreadnoughts have the vehicle category, so you can't do it to them.
It is a shooting phase. It will not die.
Yes, basically. Yeah. So
And as
how?
we as oh,
So as just as a spoiler, this is what I'm thinking of bringing on Tuesday with Vulcan. So I will be healing him in my shooting phase, and then at the end of my turn, he will be will not die on a 4+ for
oh,
anything
I
that I have left.
see. So
Yeah.
you're wanting to try it out as pretty much just a medic.
Yes, I'm not gonna pay the points for a proper medic. I'm gonna bring a librarian who's gonna use Earth magic to make my
Okay.
demigod of fire cool. It's either that or I'm probably gonna do something. I don't know yet, but I was looking at this one to try that one out on Tuesday. Because I just
Pyromancy, I think,
yeah,
has a good shout.
just no, no,
No,
no, not against Night Lords.
Night Lords with difficult terrain. That's
Yeah, unless I hunker down in the corner and
no, don't do that.
basically make no way. It depends what he brings. If he brings that stupid drop pod list, I've played Chris too many times to know that if I give him a 50 pence piece size of a hole in my line, he's putting a drop pod in it. If he sees a hole and he's like, I can fit a drop pod in that, and you're like, no way, he'll put a drop pod
But
in that.
but everybody takes augury scanners, so why are you worried?
Because it's no. I know what he's like. But essentially, the shoot now, if you're going to be taking a lot of demons and fighting a lot of demons, or you're going to be fighting word bearers, especially if you know your opponent likes Galvobak and those crazy dreadnoughts, you're going to want to use this discipline and the psychic weapon. So basically, it's a template weapon at strength 4, AP 3, assault 1, and then it has Santic. So basically, what that means is if it's a demon, you always wound that demon on a 2+, and any successful invulnerable saves have to be re-rolled. So this is really, really good against demons. Nice flame template into that demon unit, always wound on a 2+, and any invulnerable saves that they have, they're re-rolling it if they're successful. So it's if you're going to take on word bearers with a lot of Galvobak, bring a librarian with this power just to sort of screw them over a little bit. Bring 2 with telepathy just to really fuck them around. You can stop them from doing any reactions and then burn them to death with anti-demon fire. So it's not bad.
It's not bad. Now I think it's worth, now that we're talking about Sanctic and killing demons, is to actually go onto the esoterist and what psychic powers they get, because it's very, very simple.
Yeah.
So first of all, how many points is an esoterist?
I think he's 35 points to upgrade.
35 points for an upgrade. Okay.
Yeah.
So with the esoterist, so the psychic powers that we'll go into what his thing gets, because he comes in either 2 types, traitor or loyalist.
Yeah,
and
the model seems to be a traitor.
It is a traitor.
But the librarian you could use as a loyalist.
Yeah. But depending on whether you're loyalist or traitor depends on what one of your psychic powers is.
Yeah.
Seal the veil or breach the veil.
Ooh, right.
But if you're doing stuff, you can also summon ruin storm demons. They do a whole lot of weird things which we're not going truly into.
No, yeah.
But the psychic discipline's called anathemata. So seal the veil for our loyalist is, instead of making a shooting attack, Psyker with this power may select a single enemy unit composed entirely of models with the demon or corrupted subtypes within line of sight, and it has at least 1 model within 18 inches of the Psyker. All models in the unit must reduce their strength and toughness by 1 to a minimum of 1 until the end of the unit's controlling player's next turn.
Right.
The controlling player using the psychic power may then choose to do a psychic check, If it's passed, the target unit also suffers perils of the warp, and if the check is failed, both target and the psyker suffer perils of the warp.
I am listening. I'm just flicking through the other legions to see what psychic powers they have access to.
Salamanders, White Scars, and then the Space Wolf.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Breach the Veil, which is the traitor one. You make a psychic check for the esoterist. If it is failed or not taken, then the chosen point is scattered. So this is how Breach the Veil is pretty much the psychic power that allows you to summon Runestorm Demon.
Yeah.
Which we're not really talking about.
No. Because we don't really have the list.
We don't really have the list and stuff, so we'll talk about that at a later date. But Void Darts, both the traitor and the loyalist get. And this is a psychic weapon, 18-inch range, strength 5, AP 4, assault 12, sanctic, deflagrate, and psychic focus.
Yeah.
So really good at shooting demons and corrupted units. Because it thinks it's a Volkite.
Yeah, I think they're interesting. I prefer. I think if you're going to be going up against demons or a lot of corrupted word bearers, then it might be worth a shout of bringing one.
Yeah.
But I like my librarian. So I'll go over the White Scars. And now we don't have access to the trader book because I don't have it yet, and you don't have it.
No, I don't own it.
But when we actually do cover the traitor legions, we will have a copy and we'll be able to go through their psychic powers that they have then. But until then, what we'll do is we'll just stick to the loyalist. So I'll do the White Scars. You can do your own legion because, they're Space Wolf player. So the White Scars can have a Storm Seer for 45 points as an upgrade. Pretty much almost the same. So they gain Adamantium Will 4+. Now I'm not sure if
that is a 4+ invulnerable save against psychic stuff.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if a normal librarian has that. I can't remember reading that. I don't think they do. So that's actually kind of cool. No, they don't. No, they do not. So that's kind of cool. So they get that extra save from psychic powers. A war gear, so they can replace their power weapon, bolt pistol, combi bolter with a force weapon at no additional cost, and they can also have a psychic hood for 15 points. You're going to take a psychic hood. We've established psychic hoods are a must-have if you bring a librarian. So they have the psychic discipline Storm's Fury. So the psychic gains listed powers, weapons, and special rules. So they've got the psychic weapon is known as Unseen Bolt. It has a range of 72 inches. It is strength 4, AP 4, heavy 1 large blast, barrage, shock pulse, and force. So if you do
that is a lot.
Yeah, it is, but it doesn't have psychic focus, so which means you can fire this off without actually doing a psychic test. If you do the psychic test, you're turning the force on, so you essentially make it strength 8 AP 4. But
nice.
If you've perils, then you're taking the perils of the warp. But that's still 72-inch range, large blast template, heavy 1 with barrage. And that's shock pulse, which is kind of cool. But 72-inch range, and we were complaining about hallucinations at 36 inches.
Still, this isn't really a problem.
No, it's a nice blast template to throw out at people.
Well, it's barrage, so it's going to scatter.
Yes.
And it's going to scatter a lot if you don't have direct line of sight.
Voxes, people. Make sure you've got Voxes. So, their psychic power is the Call of the Wind. So instead of moving in the movement phase, A psychic with a psychic power may grant Fleet 2 special rule to all friendly units with at least one model within 6 inches of the psychic. This special rule lasts until the beginning of the controlling player's next turn, and then when using this power, the controlling player may choose to make a psychic check, and if the check is passed, then the effect is improved to grant Fleet 4.
Wow.
Yeah. So you really need to get those tactical squads or those bikes up. You can make them go mega fast.
I can only imagine what I could do with Fleet 4.
Well, though, you can't.
I'll just have to stick to Fleet 2.
They get Fleet.
In a specific rite of war.
Yeah. So what does Fleet do, for anyone that doesn't know?
Fleet allows you to run an extra amount of inches in the movement phase if you choose to use it then, and it also gives you additional movement in the assault phase.
Wow. So that's what, +4 on the assault?
For Space Wolves, yes.
Well, on the White Scars, if they use this power.
Oh, yes, it means +4.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really nice. But he can't move, so I can't imagine that you're going to have him in a front line. Yeah, you're not going to have him in a front line unit. You're going to want him sort of sitting back behind your combat units.
Which, with his psychic weapon, it sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
He's buffing them up and sending them out.
Yeah. I do like the White Scars. They are very cool. And it's kind of fitting that they get their own thing because Jakarta Khan and Magnus were the two that did start the Librarian project.
Mm.
And it is the unknown White Scar that speaks to the Emperor at the Council of Nicaea to basically put the pros in towards the Librarians, and almost sways the Emperor until the other anti-Psyker Primarchs basically shout him down. So it is kind of cool that that one Stormseer was almost swayed. The big E. The White Scars are a very interesting legion. If AJ wasn't doing them, and although I don't see AJ playing that much, I was so tempted. But it's white, and white can be annoying to paint. But yeah, they are a very, very cool legion. There is a painting tutorial for White Scars coming very soon. Just thought of lots of heresy painting tutorials coming. Just thought I'd drop that in there. A little bit of self-promotion. So, Space Wolves, what can your not witches do, Kyle?
So my caster of runes is very, very similar at the 45-point console upgrade point.
Yes.
So I think it's identical to the Librarians and the Stormseers.
Mm-hmm.
So they also get the 4+ Adamantium Will. For just being a caster of runes, because Stormseers and like caster of runes for rune priests, as people like to call them, were more in tune with the elements, and I think this is just a little nod to that's what they're getting. They're more resistant.
Yeah.
They are locked into. I can only take divination, telekinesis, biomancy, or my own winds of Fenris. Psychic disciplines. So I don't get access to the whole range.
Oh yeah, the 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so the White Scars can only have divination, telepathy on, and the healing one, the one with a really weird name, not biomancy, the other one, Thaumaturgi. The Healy one, the Healy anti-demon one.
Thaumaturgy.
That's the one.
So they can also take that psychic could for 15 points.
That's really not a real word.
What, thaumaturgy?
Yeah, they literally made that up.
No, it's a real word.
It really isn't. I'm going to look in the Oxford English Dictionary, but it's not there.
You go ahead.
I will.
I'll keep talking about the Space Wolves. So again, we've got Psychic Weapon, Psychic Power. So Wrath of the Death Wolf is a template weapon, Strength 5, AP 4, Assault 1, Deflagrate with Force.
Ooh, Volkite Psychic Power.
Volkite Psychic Power, which can
With
be
Force.
Strength 10 Flamer.
That's quite nice. That's cool, I like that. But it's a Flamer, so if you're doing that to like Terminators, they're just going to get reroll saves.
Yeah.
I feel my pain.
The second power is where it's all at, however.
Okay, what's
Stormrot. Stormrot is, instead of making a shooting attack,
yes,
the controlling player, I can select one friendly unit of at least one model within 6 inches of the psyker.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be infantry, cavalry, or a dreadnought.
Do you have cavalry units, Carl?
I do.
Are they called Thunderwolves?
They're called jet bikes.
Oh, really upset now. Make a jet bike unit, but using Thunderwolves.
No.
Yes.
Do
it.
Not happening.
Embrace your wolf.
No. No, thank you. So you can have to target infantry, cavalry, or dreadnought for this psychic bar and be within 6 inches of it. The chosen unit gains shrouded 5 up until the next shooting phase.
That's good.
When using this power, I can choose to have a psychic test, and if it's passed, it's improved to 3 up.
All right. But even if the chest is failed, you still get Shrouded 5 plus.
I still keep Shrouded 5 plus.
That's really good. So you don't really lose anything by popping it.
Yeah.
Well, you potentially do because you're Caster Runes blows up.
I've taken my Caster Runes once.
Oh, you heretic.
And it was actually in a recent game where I was testing out like the baby version of my drop pod assault list.
Right.
And had my Caster of Runes with his retinue of Deathsworn drop out of their pod. And because the Deathsworn only really have bolt pistols, I just don't bother shooting with them. Instead, I took this guy and popped the power on themselves to give them Shrouded 3 up. Now, the first time I actually did a Perils, I rolled and actually suffered 3 wounds, but then the 4 up save from the Adamantium Will saved me. And he continued just shrouding the entire game. And yeah, he got into combat with his Warlord, I think it was. Activated the force mechanic of his force sword and did a rending hit on him. So he failed his invulnerable save and was instant death. So it was quite good for utility, I thought.
Yeah, it sounds it. I think
but three up shrouded is amazing.
I just find it really, really hypocritical that the Space Wolves go on a massive purge of the Thousand Suns because they dabble in warp magics and they literally employ their own psychers. And then when anyone points at them and goes, "But you have them," they're like, "Yeah, but they're not psychers. They're shamans."
We're using ice and stuff. Look at them. They're using clouds and magic. Magic lightning.
It's elemental powers. It's not warp fuggery.
Hey, that's
like it's the same fucking thing.
As soon as Vulcan left, then all of the Earth Shamans came out from the salamanders.
Yeah, they did. It was like, really? As soon as Vulcan let him loose, he was like, "Yeah, do whatever you want." So basically, talking about the salamanders, so we don't get to just take our psychic power discipline, whereas like you and the White Scars players have the options. Salamander players don't. We can still take librarians in our armies, but if we want to use our Fury of the Salamander discipline, it is locked into the Awakening Fire Rites of War. If you haven't listened to our podcast on the Salamanders, you can head over after this and listen to that, and explains how all that works. But The Fury of the Salamanders, it's kind of, just to sort of re-go over it, we have a psychic power, which I'll just stay off the bat, is not very good. So at the start of their turn, their own turn, the controlling player's psychic with this power may choose to make a psychic check. So you do your 2d6, roll underneath your leadership. If the check is successful, then all enemy models within 18 inches of the psychic treat all open terrain as difficult terrain, and all difficult terrain as both difficult terrain and dangerous terrain until the start of this controlling player's next turn. Now, on paper, that sounds really good.
Yeah.
Until we read on. However, the psychic may not move, make a shooting attack, or charge in that turn. Now, it's only 18-inch range, so you're going to want him quite far ahead, and then you can't do shit. So you can't do it the turn that you're moving to get in range, and you're going to want him somewhere where he's going to be safe, so you can actually do this. Again, this is why we're a defensive legion, we're not an in-your-face legion, and I think the idea around it is meant to be that we form our line, we form our wall, and we stand there going, come at us if you think you're hard enough, and this psychic pops that power to give you that overlapping sort of defense. So it makes it harder for everyone to come in, and any difficult terrain is...
I really like it.
It's cool. It's the fact that you can't move.
It's 18,
it's 18 inches.
Enemies within 18.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Now,
it's just a massive 18-inch bubble.
One of the things that you can do, just to really piss people about, is if you have two librarians, you have one librarian that has this, you have the librarian that has pyromancy, and you put this, and then the pyromancy starts throwing 3 blast templates out as well to really fuck people around. Because, and the reason why this overlaps really nicely is those pie templates count as difficult terrain already.
Yeah.
But then because of the psychic power from the Fury of the Salamanders, they'll count as difficult terrain and dangerous terrain.
That's such a cool way of looking at how to double up on librarians in the list.
You can really, really go down into it, but the problem with this power is you kind of really need to sort of think about the setup.
Both of them aren't moving whenever they're doing these powers, so it's always like a second line guy.
Yeah, you see,
but I really, really like that combo. I
told you, this is the gamey side of me coming from Age of Sigmar, is looking at these stupid combos. But that is a legit combo you could probably do. The only downside for all of this is you're not bringing Vulcan, because the Rite of War doesn't let you bring Vulcan. So you kind of so you don't bring Vulcan.
You need to take at least one chaplain.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to take the chaplain. You may take a chaplain.
Using this rider more must include at least one Legion Centurion with chaplain upgrade.
Oh yeah, it's at the bottom. Yeah, but chaplain's pretty cool. Let's take the chaplain. No cavalry, but we don't really have access to cavalry apart from jet bikes. And I would put space points on the back of.
Can't give them jump packs either.
No, it's a complete ground and pound army. So you know, like there's a lot of stuff on this. Like if I wasn't taking Vulcan on Tuesday, I would probably go for this one, and then like basically pay the 20 points to make my army fear, and have fear against Night Lords is actually quite funny. And you can basically play their games against them, and then you can take a Rite of War just to make it even more obnoxious. But I only have one librarian, and I was like looking at this, and then looking at the pie plates as well for the double up.
I think that this army would be entirely doable for you, but you don't have a chaplain yet, do you?
I have the Battle of Calth chaplain model.
Okay.
I do have a chaplain model. I just want him in Mark 6. So I can do this. I could do it if I wanted.
Yeah, and at least the chaplain is in its own little slot, so you're not using up any of your actual force org on it.
Yeah, so the three of them that I've got would be my Praetor and 2 librarians, and then
a chaplain.
A chaplain as a non-compulsory HQ. So you could do it. Without a shadow of doubt, you could do it. It would be...
It'd be funny.
It would be funny, but there's to get it right and get it to work, you're going to have to practice it a lot to actually pull it off.
Yeah, it's one of those things for the narrative day.
Yeah, like, oh, that would be so funny though. Like, you just turn everything into difficult, dangerous terrain, and then you have the second librarian throwing out 3 pie charts and just making it even harder to get into. And that, like, really slows you down because everything is difficult terrain, and then you're having to, all of the terrain features and the buildings that you're taking cover into are now turning into dangerous terrain. Then you've got pie plates on the way in that are also dangerous terrain. It's basically just designed to make your opponent roll a lot of 1s to start killing models before they get anywhere near you, and then we come out and play, and then I unleash the Praetor. But yeah, there's definitely fun to be had, and I think it works really well with another librarian. But would I use it all the time? No, not at all. There's far better ways of utilizing a librarian in a Salamander's army than this. Now, if I could run this as just a librarian and the option, like you and the White Scars players have, to take these powers, then definitely you'd probably see me do it a lot more often. But because it's heavily tied into the rights of war, which is also extremely restrictive, no, it's probably not going to be used very often. The psychic weapon is Elemental Horror, so it's a template weapon, because the Salamanders love their templates. And it's Strength 7, AP 4, Assault 1, Pinning, Deflagellate, Shell Shock 3, and Psychic Focus. So, Psychic Focus, you have to do a Psychic test before launching it out. You automatically hit, it's Strength 7, and for everything that's hit, you get additional hits with the Deflagellate. And I'm not too sure what Shell Shock 3 does. And it's also Pinning.
Shell Shock 3 reduces your leadership by 3 whenever you take the test.
Wow, so you're -3 even with the pinning. Yeah. That's actually quite disgusting. So, yeah, but again, heavily locked into a Rite of War, which is such a shame. I would have liked to have seen this as a part of a, you know...
I mean, that template is nothing to be shrugged at whenever
No, it really isn't.
Especially whenever you can still Wall of Death with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
How does using a temp is it just counted as a regular attack and has focus, or is it something else?
What do you mean?
For how you shoot it, like when do you take the psychic test?
When before rolling to hit.
For a template weapon?
Yeah, but you don't roll to hit with this, so it's automatically hits. So with a template weapon, you would go, I'm going to put my template out, and then you would do your psychic test then, pass the psychic test, then you rolled your automatic wounds.
Okay.
Or your automatic hits, because you don't roll to hit. You just... Basically, to use the template, you need to do a psychic test.
It's the psychic focus test. Okay.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Sure.
So it's not bad. There's definitely some junk involved in that, but
yeah, I mean we're thinking outside the box with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, but that's the whole point for today, is to sort of look at things that, like, telepathy is so good and so powerful that a lot of people automatically just go straight for it, and they don't really look at some of the other stuff. Like, I can guarantee Iron Warrior players listening to this now have not went, really? I can give my heavy weapon squads a 4-up invulnerable save for 100 points? Wow. Like, I guarantee none of them have looked at that. Whereas, like, Salamander players may not necessarily looked at that combo with the 2 librarians. There's other things in there that you could potentially do with some of the other powers. I think the whole point of today's podcast is to sort of try to get people to look outside of telepathy and potentially find something that is just as fun to play with rather than just going for the default auto powers. That I know that's a hard thing to sort of imagine because wargamers generally do go for the most optimized build, and unfortunately that's going to happen with this all the time.
I think it not. I don't personally see it. I mean, you never see anybody.
You don't, because you're not that type of player. But like, there are players out there that will like look at Heresy from a competitive standpoint, and will build a list competitively, and a librarian that's going to screw around with people's reactions is going to be taken, because like, why would you not do that if you can? But that's what I'm trying to say, is that there's more to librarians than just that power. There's a lot more fun to be had with them. Pardon me. I mean, I hopefully you'll use yours a little bit more.
Yeah, well, I'm actually, with the caster of runes actually doing so well for the mini drop list, I think it's going to be a staple and stay there.
Yeah, like, what is this drop pod shenanigan bullshit that's happened all of a sudden? Like, this past week, it's just been nothing but drop pod talk. Like, just for all of our listeners, we have a WhatsApp group with all of our players in it, and this week is literally exploded with people talking about nothing but deep striking drop pod lists. And there's little old me as a salamander going, I want to join in.
Well, then you need to buy yourself some drop pods.
How do I get my Terminators on the ground?
Dread claws.
Really?
Yeah. 5-man squad can fit inside a Dreadclaw.
I don't like Dreadclaws though.
You've got enough space for 6 guys in it.
Yeah, I was thinking. I was looking at it and then thinking that maybe 2 Storm Eagles to bring them in. We're not really a sort of drop pod type surgical army like that. I did ask my girlfriend if I could have a Thunderhawk. She laughed and was like, "How big is it?" And I showed her a picture. She was like, "That's pretty cool." I was like, "Yeah, it is." And she was like, "How much is it?" And I was like, "What, £400?" She was like, "Get saving." So, in fact, how much is a Thunderhawk? I've always wanted a Thunderhawk.
Too much.
No, can't be that expensive. Anyone got a 3D printer? It's bound to be a 3D printer file out there of one. Legion of Astartes. Aircraft. Oh, there it is, right there. How much? 575 points for a Thunderhawk. See, that solves my deep striking armies problems.
Sure.
That could work, couldn't it, Kyle? That could work. No one has a drop pod. Sorry, a Thunderhawk. It's, I wonder how many points we have. We are off on a tangent. I was going to sort of go off on a tangent about the Kratos, but because me and Kyle have very conflicting views on the Kratos tank.
Yes, and we will be discussing that soon.
Yeah. And then I think Games Workshop heard about our conversation because they started posting pictures about it. No, that's a Stormbird. It's not. Is it a Thunderhawk? A Lord of War? It is. So for 685 points, it has a capacity of 32 models, or 32. That is it. That's all it is. Can it take a Thunderhawk gunship? Has 1 access point at each side and 1 access point at the front. It's an assault vehicle, so I can get out and assault out of it.
Yep.
Can take a flare shield.
Doesn't come with one standard.
No, have to pay 50 points for.
Shocking.
It has central line mounted Thunderhawk cannon, which looks a little bit like a volcano cannon from from the Bane blade.
It used to be a turbo laser.
I think pretty much that's probably what it should still be. It has 2 mounted heavy bolters. And then it has 2 mounted. Then it has 2 sponson mounted heavy bolters. And it also has 2 hull front mounted las cannons, and then it has 6 front mounted Hellstrike missiles. It has a power of the machine spirit, and it has a transport bay, and it's lumbering, and it can fly, and it can hover.
Yeah, it's a big flyer.
Basically,
it's a super heavy flyer.
Really is a big ass flyer, and it can carry 32 things in it. Whereas, for an extra 100 odd points, slightly less than 100 points, you can bring a Stormbird.
We're talking ridiculous things here, Rick.
There's no ridiculous. This is if we're going to be chasing, you know, this drop pod air power. Then
drop pods are not air power. Drop pods are ground power.
Ground insertion methods. Then, you know, for 990 of your finest pounds, you could have a Stormbird, which has a 52 capacity, and apparently it can hold a dreadnought.
Ooh,
I'm pretty sure I read that it can actually have a tank inside it. Yeah, it's got a transport bay. Whatever the rule for transport bay is. No idea. It also has an auxiliary vehicle bay. I think the auxiliary vehicle bay is the rule that allows you to put a tank inside. I think it can have like a rhino or something inside it, and then you can fill the tank with troops and have it sitting inside while flying around with it. Then that's how that works. So transport bay is a mod with a special rule, can carry models of the Dreadnought. You can put a Dreadnought in it. This is also in a Thunderhawk. All models with the cavalry type, but not the anti-grav subtype. Each Dreadnought counts as 10 points of transport capacity, while each Automator and cavalry model uses a number of transport capacity equal to twice its starting wounds characteristics. So I can put a Dreadnought in there so for 32 guys, you could put 2 tac squads, a couple of characters, and a Dreadnought inside a Thunderhawk. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
And then it's just giant ass gunship. And a auxiliary vehicle bay. Models with this type may embark on a model with this special rule, embarking and disembarking as per the normal rules. A model with this special rule may carry one model with the vehicle type who has a hull characteristic of 4 or less. A model with this vehicle unit type embarking on disembarking from a model with this special rule may do so from any point in the model space. I'm pretty sure it should say it can only come out of its back door, but oh well. Apparently you can come out the side. So yeah, you can put a rhino with 10 guys in a rhino inside here, and then still have all your guys in it, and a dreadnought. But it's like $1,000, so that's not happening anytime
I think it might
soon.
be even sillier, and you might be able to put a Storm Eagle inside it.
You can put a Storm Eagle. So we heard that you like your gunship, so we put a gunship inside your gunship, and you can fill that Storm Eagle with Terminators. So you cram it full of Terminators, and I'm pretty sure the Storm Eagle also allows you to take a Dreadnought inside it as well. And then you can fill the rest of the space with that's just stupid. That needs FAQ'd. But yeah. But that is Librarians, everybody. Hope everyone has enjoyed that. What shall we do next week, Carl? Shall we do Iron Hands? Actually, Yes, we will have a podcast next week. I was like, what am I doing next week? No, I'm at a tournament next week. But then I realised that we're like 3 weeks ahead of actually release.
Sorry. Next week we'll actually have a little bit of a break because I'll not be available for recording next week.
Are we talking like real time or are we talking?
We're talking real time.
Well, that's alright because I'm not available next week either.
Yeah.
So, but we'll still be able to do it next week because we've got like 3 weeks recorded already. This is where it gets really weird. So next week, what are we talking about?
Yeah, let's talk Iron Hands.
So should we get John on? Should we try to get John on?
Yeah, if we can get John on the next time, that'll be great.
Yes,
because he has a pretty sizable Iron Hands collection.
He is the Iron Hand. He also has very white hair, almost like molten metal. He's going to kill me if he listens to this. So yes, we'll do Iron Hands next. So then that rounds out the Loyalist Legions from the Drop Site Massacre. And then at some stage, very soon, we're going to have to do the elephant in the room, which is the Imperial Fists. Could always do them last. Like, really last. Or just
we'll just have to bite the bullet and look at the rule.
Or just not do them. Fucking yellow poster boys. Like, they're everywhere. Like, everywhere. Like, absolutely everywhere. Like, there's so many Imperial Fist players. It's terrible. But we're rambling now. So, and I think we've got some good time, actually. It's like around about 2 hours-ish. So, our usual standard.
Nice.
Which is good. So, we will call it here. Now we've discussed what we're going to do next week. And we will see you in the next one. So as usual, if you like the what we do, please drop a subscription. It costs you nothing, and like and comment, and ring that bell because you don't want to miss out. And we will see you in the next episode. Apparently talking about Iron Hands.
Yeah.
Because we're both here next week. But we're not really.
Definitely. Yeah. The magic.
The magic of pre-recorded. Right. Let's go. All right, we'll see you. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.